Recording now.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
And you'll man the chat for me?
Yes. And I will
Okay.
share the screen right now.
Okay, great. And you'll man the waiting room too?
Yes.
Okay. You're the
I
best.
got you covered.
Thank you. All right, so welcome to, this is Elemental Session 4. We're going to talk everything seller appointments, listing appointments today. So I see that we have a number of people on the call. I know a handful of you have been taking Ignite this whole time. So I want to hear from a couple of you. What has been your biggest takeaway while taking Ignite so far in the sessions that you've attended? I can sit for an hour and a half. I have no problem with silence. I know someone's learning something. We're 15 sessions in or some crazy number like that. All right, Larry, I see you came off mute.
Yeah.
What have you learned so far?
The consistency around the 10-4, being consistent in your business. That's been in every presentation. So I'm taking that away, how important it is. And just to remember that we are in the lead generation business.
That's it. Right. Yeah, 100%. I love that. And what you're lead generating to is appointments, right? And that's why today's session is one of my favorites to teach, is all about how to nail a really good listing appointment so that when you go on the appointment, you are taking the listing. So I'm going to share a lot of really good information with you guys today that will help you be confident heading into the listing presentation and to be able to take a lot of listings, because in this market, right, taking listings is the name of the game. We have low inventory. We have buyers that are placing involved in a lot of multiple offer situations. And so when you have the option to either be the agent that has the listing with multiple offers on it, or the buyer's agent that has buyers that have multiple offers on it, I would hope that you would choose to want to be the listing agent with the multiple offers on the table. So we are going to dive right into the materials. Kelly, can I ask a favor? Can I share my screen instead of you sharing your screen? I know that's not the rules, but I'm going to go rogue.
Okay.
Okay. Because I also, yeah,
go ahead.
because then I have a couple other things pulled up that I wanted to show, and it's on my computer, so it's easier if I could just toggle between the couple of things. All right. So gonna look the same. Okay, so I'm assuming everybody has the presentation and the handout for the session, and we are moving right along. So I'm sure you've seen this if you've been taking Ignite a number of times, this chart. And so there's two main categories that all successful real estate agents do on a daily basis. On the left-hand side, it's the things that you want to do to grow your business, and that is your money-making activities. Sometimes you'll hear that referred to as your big rocks or your top 20% activities, right, here at Keller Williams. The right side is the running your business, right? That is marketing, listings, and going on showings, negotiating offers, doing transaction management, vendor management, all of those things. Now, where we're at today in the Ignite process is we are going to work on how do you make a seller listing presentation, and then what do you do when you actually get to the seller's house so that you can make sure that you get the listing every time. And so this is a roadmap for today's session. We're going to talk a little bit about what's important to sellers. So the key with listings is you want to understand what are sellers looking for in an agent when they are looking to buy their house. There's really only two things that they're looking for that I'm going to share with you. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how do you prepare for a listing appointment after you set one. Then we're going to talk about what is your listing presentation, how to make a really a listing presentation that is going to help you stand out from the crowd, from other people that they might be interviewing from there. And then we're going to go through an entire, from soup to nuts, the minute that you get to someone's doorstep and it's time to talk to them and do the listing presentation, to the time you're getting them to sign the listing paperwork. So we're going to do a full walkthrough of what the listing appointment looks like. And feel free to ask questions in the chat, come off mute and ask questions as we go over things. There's a lot of information today. This is my favorite session to teach in Ignite, and so I'm excited to work with you guys on it. And since there's a lot of names that I don't recognize, just so that I can introduce myself. So my name is Rita Gildersleeve. I'm the team leader of Keller Williams Realty Hudson Valley North. I also just stepped into the position of the interim team leader at Keller Williams Realty Hudson Valley United. So I'm working across both our Middletown market centers and our Kingston market centers. I have been with the company for 8 years. I started as a newly licensed agent. I walked into a career night about 8 years ago. I think it was in February, which some of you guys might have done something similar. And I decided to get my real estate license. I was working as a paralegal before that, and I wanted to build a business that had unlimited income potential, and my boss wasn't going to determine what I made. So I got my real estate license. I worked as an agent for about 2 years, and then I got the opportunity to become the productivity coach. So I served as a productivity coach in our Middletown office for about 2.5 years, where I had the pleasure of coaching and consulting over 100 agents in the Middletown office, newly licensed agents, helping them get a business plan together, teaching them how to lead generate. Not to go too much into detail, but I got the productivity coaching opportunity because I offered to teach an Ignite session, and I was in the Middletown Market Center, and Anna Gibbs, our general manager, who was the team leader at the time, walked in the room and said, "What's your 5-year goal?" Something that we ask a lot right here in this company. And I said, "Oh, I would love to be doing what the productivity coach in Middletown is doing when we opened the Kingston office." The Kingston office was just a plan. It didn't exist. Oneonta wasn't even anywhere on the map. That didn't exist at all. So we just had Middletown and New City. And I said, "I would love to be the PC when we open the Kingston office." And she said, "Well, it's funny because the Middletown PC just told me she doesn't want to do the role next year. So do you want that opportunity sooner than later?" And so I stepped into that role. I did it for about 2.5 years. I loved it. And then when we launched the Kingston office, I stepped into the team leader role here, and I've been doing that for the past 18 months. And now I'm working across both market centers in an interim basis in Middletown until we have a new full-time team leader there. So you never know what you might get out of teaching Ignite. You could get a new position, right? From coming in and participating. And it was this very session that I was teaching. So it holds a special place in my heart. All right, enough about me. You weren't here to learn about me, but that is a little bit of my backstory. All right, so the first thing that we want to talk about when you're talking about getting listings is you want to think about, obviously, you're not going to have any listing appointments unless you're lead generating for listings, right? And so Larry nailed it before when he said the daily 10-4 is so important, right? Especially as a new agent. And I also saw in the chat that somebody put about following a schedule and being consistent with your lead generation. That is also super important. And the other part of it is understanding where are people going when they look for their real estate agent. And so this is the 2019 profile of home buyers and sellers that NAR did. And what they saw was that 39% of home sellers were referred by a friend, a neighbor, or a relative, or the realtor that they used was a friend, a neighbor, or a relative. So what does that tell us? That tells us that your database is why we call your database your data bank, because there's so much money sitting in the people that you already know. And it also doesn't cost you anything to talk to the people that you already know, right? So this isn't a lead generation session. I know you guys have had sessions on lead generation, but really if you're questioning, where am I going to get these seller leads from? 39% of sellers find them by a friend, a neighbor, or relative. 27% of people use the agent that they used previously. That's the importance, that as you are all building up your past client personnel, that you don't just help them buy a house and then never talk to them again. Because most people will buy and sell multiple times over their lifetime. They might also throw in an investment property or a second home or something in the mix. And you want to be their go-to agent for all of that. And the way that you end up doing that is by consistently following up with them. 5% of people had a personal contact by an agent. That could be like something like a cold call. That could be circle prospecting. That might be that they walked in. Well, no, open houses is down the line, but that would probably be like some type of a cold call, cold marketing, either circle prospecting or farming activities. 4% of people was from an internet website. 3% of people visited an open house and met an agent. Yes, if you're a new agent, one of the biggest opportunities is to do open houses, because you won't just find buyer leads, you will also find seller leads, because a lot of times people in the neighborhood that are thinking about selling will be curious what their neighbor's home looks like and curious about what activity is going on at the open house. And so it is likely that you could have somebody stop by that's curious. It's also likely that somebody that walks in, if you're doing an open house at a home that might be like a move-up home, right? Well, if somebody's buying a move-up home, that usually means that they need to sell the first house that they lived in, and then they could become a seller lead for you. So if you haven't started doing open houses yet, that can be a really great way to lead generate for sellers. And then a small 22% of the rest of the people indicated other, which I don't know what that means. Maybe that's like the signs on the shopping carts in the grocery store. It's probably not that, but that was something other than what was listed here. So lots of different ways that you can lead generate for sellers. I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, and I won't spend a ton of time on this, but I am assuming that in a previous session, somebody shared with you this pre-listing questionnaire. Can somebody confirm or deny? Is this a brand new document?
They shared it, but is there a way you can forward that to everyone that's in this meeting?
Yep, I'm gonna download it and then I will upload it as a file right into the chat for you guys. So again, this isn't a lead generating class, but so I'm not gonna go through this portion of it, but my advice is to make sure that you don't skip this step. So when you're lead generating, you're doing one of those things on that list. So you talk to somebody from one of these ways. Now you got them into a conversation. You want to make sure that you ask them all of these questions so that you can really start to build rapport with them. The key to a good listing presentation is that you are building rapport with them every time you talk to them, because people work with people that they like. People will work with somebody that they like, or somebody that comes in with really snazzy sales stats that maybe rubs them the wrong way. 9 times out of 10, they will still work with the person that they like. And people will start to like you when you ask them a lot of questions. Okay, people will start to like you, and you can get into good rapport with them when you come from curiosity and are interested in what they have to do, why they're buying or selling. And so this is an important part. One thing I always try to mention, make sure if you're calling them, you don't ask them, how did you hear about me? Because if you just called them, that would be an awkward question to ask. Oh, hi, Teresa. So tell me, Teresa, how did you hear about me? They're going to be like, I don't know you. You just called me. So make sure that you familiarize yourself with the list before you just start reading it down. But it is a really helpful tool to use to get to know people. Here is my last tip with that. Actually, we'll talk about that a little bit later. All right, so now it comes down to, once we know where seller listings are going to come from, and then what are you going to do? You're lead generating for listings. You finally get somebody on the phone that's like, yep, okay, I'm thinking about selling my house. You're going to run through the whole the seller questionnaire with them, get all of those questions answered so that you can tee them up to send them out a pre-listing packet that we're going to go over. And then this is the second part of it. Everything that a seller wants is going to be broken down into these categories. And quite frankly, I would even say there's like a top 2 things that all sellers want. They want to sell their house for the most amount of money and in the least amount of time. So everything moving forward that you are helping them with should be with the ultimate goal to help them sell their house for the most amount of money and get them to where they're going in the least amount of time. Unless there's some oddball scenario where their timeline is longer and then you just want to get them to where they're going within their timeline. Most people, though, it's as soon as their house hits the market. So as you can see, 21% of people are looking for realtors to help the seller market the home. So what does that tell us? That tells us when we get on the listing presentation, we need to be knowledgeable about how to explain to somebody how you're going to market their home for sale. The 20% of people want help selling the home in a specific time frame. 19% of people want help pricing the home competitively. 16% of people want help fixing up the home so that they can sell it for more. 13% of people want help finding the buyer, and then 11% of people have some other thing that they want from a listing agent. I'm not sure exactly what that is, so we're just gonna ignore that and think that between these two things, that's 41% of the value that somebody's looking from a listing agent is to help them sell the home for top dollar and market it for top dollar in their specific timeline to help them get wherever it is that they are going. Any questions on anything that we've gone over so far? Okay, simple stuff. All right, so when you get down to the end of that questionnaire that you are going to send out, when you're on the phone, you're lead generating, you're talking to the seller, you're filling out that pre-listing questionnaire. At the end of that, you're gonna set the listing appointment. Now, one thing that you wanna make sure you are not doing when you are on the phone with a potential seller is, and hopefully they've said this to you in other sessions, but if not, I'll say it just in case. The goal of the lead generation call is to set the appointment. It is not to objection handle on the phone. This is what you will hear from a lot of sellers. What's your commission? How much is my house worth? How many homes have you listed in my neighborhood? What's your marketing strategy? What does your brokerage do? They want you to do the whole listing presentation for them on the phone. That is not the goal of the call. When you're lead generating and you're talking to potential sellers, your only goal is to set an appointment for them to go see the house. It's not to objection handle on the phone. The easiest way to do that is to acknowledge whatever they said. That is a great question. That's a great question. I'll give you a trick as a new agent. That phrase should be your best friend. That's a great question. I use it 8 years later when I don't know the answer. That's a great question. That's why we should meet, right? Or if you're showing a house and someone says, what's the blah, 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 what's the age of the furnace? And you have no idea. You're like, which one of these things is a furnace? That's a great question. I know exactly where to find that out. I'm going to let you know and get back to you. When you're talking about doing this questionnaire and they say, what commission do you offer? That's a great question. That's exactly why we should meet. I like to go over my entire plan in person, and I'd like to see your house because it varies. It varies. I won't know until I see your home. So can I stop by on Tuesday at 2 or Wednesday at 4? Which one works better for you? So you want to make sure that as you're, when you're on the phone, you're just setting the appointment, the listing appointment. At the end of the listing appointment, when you've set up the time in the day, you're going to tell them, okay, what I need is your email address. I'm going to send you a pre-listing questionnaire, pre-listing packet. And that is going to help me understand some information about your house. So take a minute when you get it and go through it, and then I'll be able to answer any questions about the pre-listing packet once I get to your house on Tuesday at 2 o'clock. So what is this helping you do? Number one, we always teach that a full contact has 4 prongs: a first and last name, a home address, an email address, and a phone number. So if you're on the phone with them, you probably know their name and their phone number, and you're going to get their email because you're going to send this pre-listing packet to them, and you will either know their address or you'll be getting their address, along the process. So doing it in this way is going to help you have a full contact to put into commands. All right, so you're going to hang up the phone, and then you're going to send them the pre-listing packet. So the pre-listing packet is your first step to prepare before you go on the appointment. So I'm going to close this and pull up the pre-listing packet. So which one of these things? Oh yeah, The pre-listing packet, let me minimize this, is a very important guide, and you don't want to skip this process. Here's what I will say about the pre-listing packet. 90% of realtors don't do this. If you want to stand out from other people, do a pre-listing packet, and I guarantee you will probably be the only agent that does it, and you will by default earn some level of I don't want to say respect, some level of expertise in the seller's mind by sending them out a pre-listing packet. The pre-listing packet also serves a number of benefits, and it's going to help tee up the listing appointment and take care of some of the objections that come up along the way. So this is what the packet looks like. It's in the Ignite toolkit. I'll also see if I can upload it as a file, or maybe Kelly can help me and upload it as a file into the chat here. So the first page is self-explanatory. You would fill in client name, compliments of, and put your name in here. This is the second page. It says, it's all about you. My real estate business is built around one guiding principle. It's all about you. Now, one of the things that is true in a lot of markets is that a lot of listings come, or some listings will come as a result of being an expired listing or a for sale by owner. And so this first page of the pre-listing packet is really helpful for those of you that have lead generation strategies around targeting expired listings and for sale by owners. And the reason for that is that a lot of expired listings and FSBOs have the same objections, right? So an expired listing is a listing that was on the market that didn't sell. Their listing agreement has expired, which means they're not under contract anymore with a realtor. But presumably they still want to sell their home. And so that would be what an expired listing is. They are helpful because they've already put two hands in the air. The first hand says, I want to sell my house and I have somewhere to go. And the second hand says, and I'll compensate a real estate agent. So you have both hands in the air saying, like, I want to sell and I'll pay a commission. And usually what happens with the expired listings, they are angry to some degree because they have somewhere to go and they're willing to pay you. And the last agent that they hired didn't get the job done for them, right? They didn't get them to their goal. Now, a for sale by owner is somebody that's not listed with the real estate agent. So they have one hand in the air because they want to sell, like they're signaling, I want to sell my house. I have somewhere to go, but they haven't put the second hand in the air yet about compensating a real estate agent. And so this first page kind of handles a lot of the objections that you'll hear from expireds or for sale by owners. So this is a list of what your value proposition is. So if you ever had this thought, well, I know I need a value proposition for a listing, and I'm sure when I get on this listing presentation, the seller is going to ask me, what do I do? What do I do as an agent trying to sell your house? Don't recreate the wheel. Don't make it up. You don't have to make it up. It's literally just on this page. This is what you're going to do for sellers. So the first thing is taking time to understand your wants, needs, and expectations, answering your questions, returning your phone calls and emails the same day. The number one complaint from expireds is that at some point during the listing, the listing agent got frustrated because they weren't selling the house, and all of a sudden it was tough to get a hold of them. You will hear from expired listings all the time. So we put this little verbiage in here, right, to kind of offset that. Being honest with you at all times. Number two, helping you obtain the highest possible price for your house in the shortest amount of time. What is a for sale by owner? One of their objections to listing with the real estate agent is usually that they think that they can do it themselves and that they can save on the realtor's commission by not hiring a real estate agent. So you're saying here that you're going to help them obtain the highest price possible. So that would be a higher price than they would be able to obtain on their own, even taking into consideration the commission split. Advising you on pricing and staging once I have evaluated your home thoroughly against the market. Implementing a comprehensive marketing plan to expose your house for buyers through as many channels as possible. Coordinating the home showing process with your family's needs in mind. Again, a for sale by owner, one of their pain points is scheduling showings and vetting buyers. In this market, anybody that has taken a listing as an agent, it's a headache to coordinate showings. You might be scheduling 20 or 30 showings in a weekend block of time. Now imagine if you are a home seller trying to do it on your own and you have no way to vet somebody to know if they're really qualified. You don't know who's in and out of your house. You're not going to leave your house without a licensed person being there. So now you have to be home for all of the showings. It's a headache, right? So that's why this bullet point covers that. Presenting all offers and advising you on terms and contingencies contained within, negotiating on your behalf for the best offer, scheduling and coordinating completion of contingencies and inspections, and monitoring the buyer's loan process. Again, this is a painful process if a seller is trying to do this for sale by owner. Coordinating and supervising the preparation of all real estate closing documents and guiding you through the closing process during the entire listing from start to finish, always representing your business. So this is a really great page to be a first page. This is also good social media content, by the way. For those of you that post things on social media, you could create little graphics and now you have 10 posts. You just created 10 pieces of social media content to post, right? This is what we know sellers are looking for. So use these types of things that we've pre-created for you. And again, you don't have to recreate the wheel, break them apart and repurpose the content. Okay, now the next page is also, a big part of the listing conversation is around price and where to price things, right? That's usually the biggest objection that you're going to get from a seller when you get onto the listing presentation is about the price. So this next page goes over 5 factors affecting the value of your property. Price based on recent sales. That's your comparative market analysis. The location of the property, the condition of the property, other competition currently on the market, and timing, what's going on in the market at that time. Of these 5 factors, you can only change the 2, price and the condition. You can't change the location of a house. You can't change who else around you is going to list their homes and what your competition might be. And you can't always change the timing of the market, right? People move usually for a personal reason, and most people can't wait for the market to be positioned in a certain way before they buy or sell. So another value of this page and the next page, which talks a little bit about a well-priced home creates interest, an underpriced home will attract buyers and may sell quickly, an overpriced home will give you less exposure because less people are going to be interested. You'll see less showings on the property, right? The purpose of this page is that, number one, if you are, again, a newer agent and you're going on your first couple appointments, I would really try to read these 2 pages and memorize them and be able to put them into your own verbiage to say them back to the sellers, because just because they're in writing here doesn't mean that you're not going to also have to say it again to them a couple of times. But there's a psychological trick with the pre-listing packet. And that is that I could tell you that there's I could tell you verbally that there's 5 factors affecting the value of your property. And you could hear me say it, me, the salesperson that wants the commission to sell your house. And the psychological part is that when somebody sees something in writing, they will believe it at a higher rate than when they're hearing it verbally. And so that's the other benefit of sending this pre-listing packet out. You're still going to go over this stuff at the listing presentation, but they're reading it. And so there's going to be a level of like trust that gets built in by using this packet first. And again, this tells you exactly what to say. So when you get on the presentation, you get to this part, this is how you talk. This is exactly what you would say. All right, get ready to sell condition. You don't get a second chance to make a first impression. You guys can read through all of this stuff. It's pretty self-explanatory, right? It talks a little bit about staging, how to stand out from the crowd. This page is going to help you because sometimes you will walk into a house and it will be so cluttered and it will be so messy and you will be having a slight panic because you want to nicely say to them that we have to get the house in show ready condition. And so that's where this page comes in, right? You would say, okay, remember the pre-listing packet that I sent to you, page 3 of the pre-listing packet? We talked a little bit about the condition of the property and the difference that staging makes. And you read there like the general kind of rules in terms of transitioning your home from a home into a house for sale, right? Which are two separate things. And so let's talk about some ways that we can do that. So this page is going to help with that. Now this page is just helpful kind of information, but there's a secret to this page. There's a secret to this page. The secret to this page is that you're going to send this out and you are going to see this questions for you where this is their homework. This is what they're supposed to do before the listing presentation. And when you get on the listing presentation, one of three things will happen. Number one, the seller will not have even opened this at all and will have no clue and will say, oh yeah, I think I saw something. Or they'll just say, maybe it went to spam. I never saw it. No. Right. They'll have no clue. They'll never have okay, that's number one. Number two is that they read through it and they did not fill out the questionnaire. Oh yeah, I read through it. It's great. I just didn't have time to fill out the questionnaire. Number three is that they will have 2 copies printed out. They will be on their dining room table. The questionnaire will be filled out in great detail, and that will be like ready and waiting for you there at the listing presentation. And so while this information is helpful and great, the trick is that it's actually so that you can start to learn what type of person you're going to be working with. Okay. Someone that is going to say, I don't even know what check amount, I didn't get the email, or I didn't have a chance to do it, or I didn't fill it out, or whatever it is. I'm going to venture to guess they're not super detail oriented people. And so you need to be cognizant of that on the listing presentation, that if you start to go into too much detail and too many steps and overwhelming them with process and giving them a bunch of stats, that they're going to be like, I just want to know how you're going to market my home and list it for sale. And conversely, when you see somebody that has filled out this whole form and they have it ready and prepared for you, and they're excited to go over it with you, that's somebody that probably is going to want a high level of attention to detail. And those are going to be the people that on the listing presentation, you might need to slow down a bit and really walk through things with them and make sure that you're answering all their questions and make sure that you're telling them kind of in a step-by-step methodical manner, the way that the process is going to work. See, a lot of taking listings is psychological. It's a lot of psychology that goes into it. And I'll give you a couple more hacks as we continue through the class that will help you with this. But that's the key with this sheet, is you'll see really how people work. And then the last page is something that you will fill in yourself, and you'll have a little bit of about me in here. If you have some reviews, you can put them in here. By the way, you don't need a closing to get a review. You don't, maybe I hope I'm not the first person to tell you this, but you don't need a closing to get a review. If you show a house and the people go, wow, that was so helpful, thank you so much, say, great, I'm so happy that you found this valuable. Would you mind giving me a review if I texted you a link? Thanks so much. You go to the home inspection or whatever, you negotiate a great deal and you get a great offer, and their offer is accepted. They haven't done the horrendous home inspection. They haven't argued with their mortgage broker yet. They're like so happy that they got the offer accepted. I'm so happy I was able to help you win the multiple offer situation. Hey, would you mind leaving me a review about that if I sent you a quick link? Start getting your reviews as soon as possible. People can give you multiple reviews, right? So start collecting the reviews and then add them in here. All right, any questions about this pre-listing packet, its use? Yep, okay, hi Barb, how are you?
Fine. Sorry, I'm writing all these notes down. Thank you. There's a lot of information. 2 things. First, on the link, if I send you a link, will you give me a review? What kind of link would you send? I don't understand that.
Oh, that's a good question. So the 2 most popular places that people will give you reviews is usually Zillow. That's also usually where consumers will look you up, would be either on Zillow or a Facebook business page. If you have a Facebook business page, you would just send them a link, like the URL to there. Or if you should have all at this point gone into Zillow and created a free profile, a free Zillow marketing profile. and you can go into like the agent section, and there's a little link that they'll give you that you can provide to people where they can leave you reviews right there.
Thank you. And
welcome.
the second question I have is, I found the pre-listing questionnaire, the one pager, but I don't see this packet anywhere.
Okay, Kelly, do you know where this is in the toolkit? Can you upload it? You'll have to probably save it as a PDF and then upload it to them.
Is it also in the toolkit?
Yeah.
The whole thing? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I have that. I guess I just didn't see the right page.
I think it's called.
Maybe I'm a little, sorry, maybe I'm a little crazy. Where is the toolkit?
The toolkit should be in the resources, the Google Drive folder. If it's not, I'm sure that's something, Kelly, that you can get uploaded. You get the toolkit out of Connect.
Yep.
Out of KW Connect.
Is this called the preview job aid?
Nope, it's called the pre-listing presentation.
That's not in the Ignite toolkit. It goes open house job aid, pre-listing questionnaire, and then preview homes job aid.
So this is the toolkit I have that I pulled off of KW Connect.
Let me go on KW Connect and then I can pull that up for you guys.
I just pulled it down from there, and unless you could tell me what page it's on, maybe I'm just not seeing it.
No, it's its own. So I think I might still have it in here. I could probably find it really quick. KW Connect, this would probably be helpful for you guys. So hopefully you all know what KW Connect is.
Yeah, I'm there. I'm on KW
Yep.
Connect, and I searched for pre-listing packet, but that's
So if you choose Ignite 2.0 Lab, and then you go over to materials, on the instructor files side, you'll see down here Ignite Toolkit. It's a zip file. If you click it,
I'm lost. All content, users, I don't know, all content.
okay,
I have
Kelly,
training resources, maybe resources.
I have the toolkit up right now. So let me just download it into a PDF and I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you so
Perfect.
much.
You're welcome.
Sorry.
No, I
Just
want to
easier
make sure
this
you guys,
way.
yep,
just
I
put
want to
the
make
link-
sure you guys have the
I just put the
information.
link in the group, guys. The link is in the
Thanks,
group.
Larry.
Okay. Thank you.
It should open.
Awesome. Okay, what other questions can I answer?
Oh, I was going to ask, do you advise against using Google for your reviews, or?
You can, I mean, there's no real like right or wrong review place. I think most, unfortunately, as it is, I think most people are on Zillow and will look on Zillow. Here's the thing with Zillow though, they are particular with reviews, meaning you can only leave like one review. So you might save the Zillow review for like the closing, when the house closes, ask them to review you there. And then like Facebook or Google or even Yelp, like there was an agent in Middletown that like secretly started, not secretly, but she started getting reviews on Yelp and no one else was getting reviews on Yelp because I think everyone thought it was irrelevant. And then she started getting all this business because she was the only agent who had reviews on Yelp. So I don't know that there's any like good or bad place. The other thing you can do is wherever you are getting your reviews, you can compile them and send them to support@scottleroymarketing.com, and Scott Leroy will set up a review standalone page on your KW website that he'll upload them all onto there for you. He can upload up to 10, and then that would be included on that KW website for you as well. Any other questions? All right, so you're going to email the pre-listing packet out to them, and then the next, so that's this page, the pre-listing packet. So we went over that. All right, so now the next thing that you want to do before we get to the actual appointment is you want to know how to prepare for the appointment beforehand. So after you send the pre-listing packet, now you have their address, and the goal now is to do a little bit of recon about the house that you're going to go to the listing presentation for. So you go obviously in person to the person's house for the listing presentation. So this is the next thing that you're going to want to do. You go onto the MLS, whatever MLS you belong to, and you're going to type in the property address and see if the house has ever been listed before. If it has been listed before, there is a ton of really good nuggets that you can find in the old listings. Number one, you will see if the person has hired and fired 15 real estate agents. You will see that sometimes. You will also see what the last listing price their house was and how long ago it was, right? So you'll have an idea of what they think their home is worth and what value that they're seeing in their house. You might also be able to see if it's a house that was expired, if there was ever any accepted offers. So if it went pending and then came back on the market, right? You can kind of learn about the house's history from there. Here's the other thing that you'll learn. You should have access to pictures then, so you can click through and start to get your bearings about what you're going to see when you get into the house. And the other thing that might be a benefit and was absolutely a benefit to me when I was a new agent is I would read the remarks and I would start to take note of certain things. So in the remarks, the agent remarks, or the public remarks, or both, it will say things. It could say something like roof, 6 years old, Bolaris furnace, 3 years old, top of the line. When I was one of my first listing presentations, I found an old listing and it said bamboo flooring. And I didn't know what bamboo flooring was. I know what it is now, but I didn't know what that meant or what it looked like or anything like that. Walking into a house, I would never have been able to look at the flooring at that point and said, this is great bamboo flooring. But now I had this arsenal. I was like, check, this house has bamboo flooring, the roof is 6 years old, and there's a high efficiency burner. Okay, so I'm just gonna fast forward to tell you that then the first step of when you get on the listing appointment is you tour around the house, and that's when you drop in those little things. Oh my God, I see that you have bamboo flooring. They're beautiful. This looks, oh, a high efficiency. That's great. A high efficiency furnace. That's great. That probably keeps your heating costs low. Your roof looks like it's in good shape. It looks like it's probably less than 10 years. This is the way that you also build authority with sellers, right? I know it. A lot of you are probably new, or they're working on building up your confidence and going in and feeling like I can confidently talk to this person. That dropping in little hints like that along the way will, in the seller's mind, position you as somebody that that knows what's going on and is knowledgeable about homes. So do a little bit of recon and see if you can find an old listing. The other thing you want to do is you want to pull up the realist, or if you're in Ulster County, the Ulster County Tax Services. If you're in a different county, you can pull up realist tax services, and you want to take a look at when is the last time the house sold, how much did it sell for, what are the liens on the property, what improvements are on the property. So that's important. You want to see it, that when you get to the house and there's a shed in the backyard, you want to see the tax records know that there's a shed, right? That when you find a pool, you want a pool listed. If you're looking, if you get tour through the house and you get shown 4 bathrooms, but on Realist or in Ulster County Tax it said 2 bathrooms, those are things that you want to ask some questions about before you get into the whole process of listing the home. So you want to do a little recon, look at the taxes, just get your bearings about what type of information you can get from the house. You're also going to do, before you go on the presentation, a CMA. A CMA is a comparative market analysis. It's what compares that home to the rest of the homes currently on the market and what has sold recently and what's currently under contract. That is its own standalone Ignite session, because you do need a good hour and a half just to dig into how to do a CMA. So I'm not going to cover that today. You'll have to come back for that. You want to make sure you come back for that session. But that's the other part of it. So that's a little bit of the background work that you want to do. And then you're going to go prepared with a printed out listing presentation to give to the seller, and a printed out comparative market analysis to give to the seller. And we're going to go over what both of those things look like. So that is how you're going to prepare for your listing presentation. So you're going to fill out the questionnaire, then you're going to send them their pre-listing packet. Then you're going to go onto the MLS and look for the house. Then you're going to go onto the tax service or realist and do some investigative work and see what you can dig up on the property. And then you're going to get your marketing material, your marketing presentation together, and your comparative market analysis together so that you have something to hand the seller when you get to the presentation. Any questions on any of that?
Say a house does have like a discrepancy between what's on the taxes and what's actually in the house as far as bedrooms, bathrooms, or square footage or things like that. What do you do when you're doing the listing?
So that's a great question. So you want to ask them when you're there. So I see you have a full bath down in the basement. Do you have a permit? The first question, you don't want to just jump to, and that's not on the tax record. So the first question is, I see that you have a bathroom in the basement. Did you have a permit, or that's newer than the house was built in 2000 and you're telling me the bath is 4 years old? Did you get the proper permits for it? Yes, they'll say yes or no. Okay, great. So just so that you know, so when we get a buyer on the hook and we go under contract, they're going to run a municipal search. So when we run a municipal search, they're going to see a permit for the bath and everything's good there. And they're going to go, yes or no. Okay, well, so if the answer is no, we didn't do that. They should have permits for anything that they want to sell, because number one, and if they ask why, number one, if it's somebody that's getting a mortgage, depending on the mortgage product, it's probably going to be required that they have proper permits for things. Number two, even if they find somebody with cash to buy the house, it's not a guarantee that someone's going to want to take on the burden of getting permits for work that they've done without knowing whether or not they did it safe or right or within the the municipality code. And so those are the things that they'll want to clear up. If they're not sure, you could say, well, hang on, let me look at my notes. Okay, it looks like I did a little research preparing for our meeting. It looks like the tax records have 3 bedrooms listed. But I see here that you're telling me it's 4, you're using the property as 4. So we're gonna have to probably go with what the tax records say, because that is legally what your house is. And that doesn't mean that we can't put in the marketing remarks that there's a potential 4th room, that there's a room for an office, that there's not ways that we can still talk about the additional things, but we're probably technically, for your benefit, so you don't get stuck in all these weird municipal violations and the town holding you up from closing. We'll just want to make sure that our stuff matches what their stuff says, because it's going to come up during the municipal search anyway. Good question. What other questions? Minnie, I saw your hand raised. Did you have a question? Minnie, still on here?
I was trying to download the pre-listing package, and I finally was able to. I'm in the process of downloading. If I have a problem, I'll let you know.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Any other questions? Okay. So now we're all prepared for our big listing appointment, and we have all of our stuff together. Now, the last piece of that is your listing presentation. Everyone should have a listing presentation that you actually print out and give to the seller. I can't tell, again, when we talk about 90%, I would say 98% of people aren't going to send a pre-listing packet. Probably 75% of people don't even bother. It's insane. Don't even have a printed out listing presentation.
Yeah.
Couple of things on the listing presentation. Number one, what did we see is the number one way that people are finding sellers. It's someone that they know. It's a friend, it's a family member, it's somebody that they know. Don't treat that person more casually than you would a stranger. Meaning, when you are walking into your cousin's house to sell it, they still are selling multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of real estate, likely their biggest asset, likely something that's very important for them to get their equity out on. That should be treated with the same level of professionalism as if you were walking into somebody that you didn't know. And I think that you can't underestimate that, right? Like, there are certain times where you know you're going to get the listing, if you, whether you walk in your pajamas or not, because it's like your grandfather's house or your mom's house or something like that, still show up as a professional, because by the way, that's how you get good referrals. If that is how you get good referrals. When you show up as a professional, you are now showing somebody that you know that this is how you work in your business, in your full professional business, and they'll respect that and be willing to refer business to you, right? I think that the referral opportunity goes down when you walk in and you're just casually talking to them and you're assuming that you've gotten the listing and all of these, and you're not really wowing them with all of these awesome things that you're going to do. It's a harder, they might still give you referrals, but it's not going to be this like raving referrals as when one, they know, like, and trust you, and then four, they see how professional, well put together, and polished you are as a real estate professional. So make sure that you always have a listing presentation on anything you go on. And again, you know, it's KW, so you don't have to recreate the wheel on anything. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's like 12, 10, however many listing presentation templates right in Command. So I'm in Command. I am in the design section of Command. I clicked make a new design and I chose print marketing because the idea is you're going to print this out and hand it to them. And then I'm under listings and listing presentation. You can choose whichever one looks best to you. And again, we don't have enough time today for me to go through how to utilize this. If you're not sure where to go from here in terms of putting together an actual listing presentation that looks good, you have a couple of options. Number one, you can contact your ASC, your Agent Services Coordinator in your market center. That's Kelly if you're in Oneonta, Haley if you're in Kingston, Dan if you're in New City, or Steven if you're in Middletown, and they can help you with this. You can also schedule a time with Eileen Angel, who is our tech trainer. And if you want more information, if you want a help on how to like logistically function through the technology, Eileen would be your go-to for that. She has open office hours that you can attend her sessions there. But you want to put together a really nice looking listing presentation that looks, yes, Larry's saying Eileen is amazing. Eileen is amazing. That's why her last name is Angel, because she is literally an angel. She has some big value to our company. Minnie, I see your hands raised. Is there something else? Yep, you're muted.
My question is, I have actually been speaking to sellers that do not have email addresses because they are like in their 80s or something like that. And when you're trying to talk to them over the phone, in reference to a pre-listing package, it may not exist. You may just have to go over there for the appointment.
Mail
right?
it to them.
Well, if you have the appointment for the next day.
Yeah.
So I've had this experience where I actually did the pre-listing, I did the qualification when I got to the house because I had no other choice. Have you ever heard of such a thing? What do you do?
I mean, you have to use you have to use your best discretion, right? Like, so we give you throughout Ignite, we give you best practices that will probably work with 85 to 90% of the time. And then you have the 10% of time where you have to use your best discretion in terms of what you think is gonna be the best way to provide a high level of customer service. True. Yeah. Yeah. So it's probably just one of those outliers where you have to make a game day decision of what
the older people.
Yeah.
Some of the older people, they do not have email. They're not interested in email.
Yeah.
And then you have some that are tech savvy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question. Sure. And if you ever have questions about like, what should I do in this situation? If you're in productivity coaching, that's a great question for your productivity coach. If you're not in productivity coaching, that's a great question for your team leader in your office, right? Like that's really what we're here to help you consult with you with on how to have these conversations and navigate these different appointments.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions before we move on to the listing presentation? Okay. So this is I'll just go through the selection. All right, so this is everything that's going to happen on the day that you show up to the listing presentation. So the day you show up to the listing presentation, you want to make sure, number one, that you're on time. Okay, that's very, very important. Don't run on RST, which is Realtor Standard Time. Make sure that you are punctual for your listing appointment. And so you want to arrive on time. And what you're going to have with you is, I would use we have free folders in the office. They're provided to us from our title company, the title company in the office. So if you don't have a stack of free folders, go into your market center and ask your ASC for some folders. So they're nice looking. They have KW on the front and our information on it. So you're gonna have a folder to hand to the seller. Inside's gonna be your listing presentation, and then a CMA, and then your business card. And then you're gonna have a notebook, and you're gonna have a copy of the CMA that you've marked up with your notes. And if you need it, the first couple times, you might need your own version of the listing marketing presentation so that you can remember, because sometimes it's tough to remember what page they're on as they're going through things. So you're gonna arrive on time, you're gonna park in the driveway or wherever. And as you're walking to the door, you're going to note something that you can compliment them on. Maybe their lawn is nice, maybe their flowers are nice, maybe nothing's nice, but it's a sunny, warm day, maybe whatever. You find something to say that is nice. Go up to the door, knock on the door. When you knock on the door, take a step backwards. So when you knock on the door, take a step backwards. A lot of people's intuition is as people are opening the door to lean in. It's a psychological thing that throws people off balance. It makes them feel like you're like aggressive a little bit. And so if instead, when they're opening the door, you take a step back, then they welcome you into the house, and it's just a better kind of like intro. So they're gonna welcome you and you're gonna step in. It's COVID time, so you might just wave, who knows, like you'll do an elbow bump, a handshake, whatever it is. Thank you so much for allowing me to come over and view your home and speak with you. Okay, now the first thing that you're gonna do is the tour of the house. So you want to make sure that you do everything in a specific order. And there's reason for it. So the first step is to tour the house. Okay. So it's exactly like it sounds. You're going to walk through each room. You're going to ask a lot of questions. During this time frame, the key is for the seller to do most of the talking and for you to just be asking questions. Here is another trick. Actually, let me rewind. I said I was going to say it later, but it makes more sense to fit it into a different part. One of the questions you want to ask when you're on the phone with the person setting the appointment for the listing appointment, ask them to describe the house. Okay. When we're talking about the psychology of somebody, and sales is psychology, right? This is a sales business, and there's a lot of psychology that goes into sales. There are 4 distinct personality profiles that every person is a combination of, and every person has usually 2 are their high traits in 2 and their lower traits in another 2. And you can study this. I teach a class actually on this called the DISC profiles. And so the 4 attributes are D, I, S, and C. Everybody is a combination of a D, an I, an S, and a C. 2 of those you'll be higher in, 2 of those you'll be lower in. And an easy way to figure out what somebody might be is by asking them to describe their house. It's the easiest question. And this is how you're going to get a good idea of what this person might be. And then this will give you some tips about how to mirror and match them on the appointment. So somebody that is a high D, that's a driver personality. Those are usually your executives, your top salespeople, your managers, your principals, somebody in some type of authority or leadership position. They're a lot of times like aggressive. They're drivers, right? They're looking for growth and movement. You will hear these people describe their house a lot of times in a very positive light, and a lot of times in comparison to their neighbors. So you'll hear something like, well, we have the biggest lot on the block, and we're the newest built house, and we have granite, and we have an in-ground pool. The rest of the neighbors on the block have an above ground pool, and we have 4 more acres. You might also hear them start to say, and we just spent $25,000 on a kitchen last year. And we, you'll hear a lot of things about how great the house is and how it's like kind of like superior from anything else on the market. That's a good indication someone's a high D personality. High I, so the D stands for driver. High I, that's influence. Somebody that is high I is usually the person that you would think about that's the social butterfly. Okay. So someone that's a social butterfly is probably going to explain their house in terms of how they entertain in it. So you'll hear things from them like, oh, the backyard is great. We have huge 4th of July parties and the whole neighborhood comes over and we hang out. And the dining room fits 12 people and we always do a big Thanksgiving dinner. And there's a great spot for the Christmas tree in the main room. And my kids have their friends over all the time in the basement. They're going to be the people that kind of live and describe their house in terms of how they entertain in it or how they have fun in it or events that they've done in the house, that kind of thing. Someone that is a high S, that's your structure person. Okay. That's probably your person that printed out the pre-listing page and filled it out for you. So this is somebody that is very stable. They're usually pretty calm, reasonable, and you will hear them a lot of times describe their house and how they enjoy it. So you might hear like, oh, the family room is really great for warm, cozy nights, or the soaking tub in the master bathroom has been an amazing place to relax, or the home gym has really helped my husband to get in shape after a surgery, or something is going to be about like how they're enjoying the house as a family. You'll also probably hear them describe if they live with a family, there might be like some attributes about how their family enjoys the house. And somebody that is a high S. Somebody that is a high C, that is someone that you're going to hear stats and figures from. So this is how that is going to go. And you might have heard, it's a 2,400 square foot ranch. It's 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, and it's on half an acre. That's like, it's a very analytical, someone that's a high C is very analytical. You're not going to hear a whole bunch of fluff. You're not going to hear a whole bunch of things. Their mind is going to go to, it's 2,400 square feet, 3 bed, 2 bath. We bought it in 1991 for $150,000. We have half an acre. It's a fenced in backyard. We remodeled the kitchen this year. Like, it's just going to be straight facts. Okay, now you might be thinking, okay, cool. Now what am I supposed to do with that information? So here's a couple helpful tips. People that are high Ds are not going to be super attention to detail. They also aren't going to want you to be long-winded. They're going to want the executive summary of everything that you have to tell them. They're also, when you get on the listing presentation, are going to be hyper-focused on how you're going to help them win in the market, whatever winning. And most of the time that looks like getting them a lot of offers, selling the house for more than their neighbors. Like, how can they be the best, the best, the best? How can they be like, the greatest person, blah, blah, blah. Someone that's a high I, those are the people that really thrive and see a benefit from social interactions. And so someone that is a high I is going to want to be friends with you, right? And so if you go in and someone's a high I and you might be a high D personality, so you go in and you're like, I'm going to do all this marketing. I'm going to get you 55 offers. And I'm going to do blah, 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 blah. But you don't ask them any type of personal questions. You don't build rapport with them. You don't have a good kind of like flow with them. Someone that's a high I is probably not going to get into relationship with you as quickly. And the reverse is true for someone that's a high D. If someone that is a high D and wants it to know how you're going to help them win in the market, and you start going, how many kids do you have? And blah, 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 tell me about this. Oh, your kid does swim meet. So does my kid. And they're going to be like, okay, that's great. Thank you. But you're not going to make the same connection with them because you're not speaking their language. Okay. Someone that is people that are S's and C's, both of them are usually a little more reserved. They might not be as bubbly and outgoing as like a typical salesperson is. They're the people that are you're probably going to need to slow down if you haven't noticed, I talk pretty fast. I'm pretty high energy. I have to consciously slow myself down when I know that I'm working with a seller that is a high S or a high C, because if I go in like a tornado ripping around and making jokes and all these things, they're going to be like, I hate this person and she is disturbing my peace. Like she needs to go. So here's the other thing you want to keep in mind with these personality traits. Probably 80 and maybe 70% of salespeople are high D's and high I's, meaning that probably a lot of you can relate with the high D and high I personality. I myself am my highest trait is I, my second highest trait is D. In the general population, the majority of the population is S's and C's. So you are likely going to, in many situations, be in a situation where your natural personality profile is going to be different than the natural personality profile of the person at whose house you are at. And so again, I teach a whole class on this on the calendar in the next couple of months. If you want to dig in like deeper on this, I am happy to. Because I know this is a lot of information, but it's something that you want to kind of keep into consideration when you're going into the house. So if you're going to the house and the listing presentation is with somebody that's a high D, you're going to know that you're going to want to get to the point. You're going to want to talk about sales stats. If you don't have sales stats, use our office's sales stats. Use your individual office, use our office as a whole, use KW sales stats, right? Somebody that's an I, you're going to want to build rapport and ask them a lot of questions, get to know them personally. Somebody that is an S, you're probably going to have to really break down the steps of the process, the steps of the way that things work. You're going to want to explain things in detail. You're going to want to make sure you ask them a lot. What other questions can I answer? What other questions can I answer? What other questions can I answer, right? And make sure that their analytical brain is checking all the boxes. And someone that is a high C is someone that probably is just going to want you to talk in black and white. Okay, they're probably just going to want you to go in and say, okay, so based on, they're going to be really into the comparative market analysis. The tour is going to be like 10 minutes because it's going to be fast and they're going to show you the logistical of things and then want to know like in black and white, how are you going to get their house sold? So again, now fast forward. So now we're in the house, you're doing the tour and you're doing the tour. Part of the tour is to confirm the disc profile that you think you picked out when you asked them on the phone to describe their house. Okay. And so you're confirming that as you're touring through the home. This is also the opportunity where you're dropping in the little nuggets that you picked up, the bamboo flooring, the new furnace, the roof, the this, that, or the other thing, right? You're also asking them more questions. You're doing more asking than you are answering. You want to let them really talk, and you will start to see again. So this part, the first part is probably this tour part is probably the most important part because this is your opportunity to get into relationship with the person. The other two sections of the listing presentation are going to be you talking to them and at them. This is the part where you make the relationship. And so the next two parts are where you start selling them on working with you as the real estate agent. And that is made 10 times easier if the first part you create a relationship with them, which again, if you're a high I personality like me and you're trying to create a relationship with them the way that I would want to have a relationship created with me, and they are an S or a D, you might lose them by the time you get to the table because you're not mirror and matching their tonality, their language, the way that they want to be interacted with. Okay, so you go around the whole house, ask them a bunch of questions, however many questions, right? Take notes. You're taking notes on your notepad. You're asking them questions. Oh, this is probably when that conversation of, this is probably when the conversation of, I see a shed in the yard. I didn't know that, did you get a permit when you put the shed in? How long have you had the solar panels on the roof? Are they leased or owned? That's a very important question. You see solar panels, you need to find out if they are leased or if they are owned. And then if they're leased, you need to figure out what that means, because usually that means the new buyer needs to take over the lease. And it also might mean that they need to go through a credit check and be approved for the solar panels. That's all information you'll want to include on the listing. So you want to ask questions, right? So you get done with that, then normally you're going to go and you're going to sit at either a dining room table or a kitchen table, usually at a table, and you're on one side of the other person's on the other side, and the other couple people are on the other side. The next thing you want to do is you want to go through your listing presentation with them. You make sure you go in this order. Do not do the CMA before you go through the marketing plan with them. Because if you dive into the CMA and they don't see the value that you're going to provide, they're just going to start arguing with you about commission and price and blah, 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 all the things. So you want to tee them up and go through the full marketing presentation. So things that you should include in the marketing presentation, and you will, because they're in the template, you can't like screw it up. It's literally just following the order of the packet, right? It's talking a little bit about yourself, right? Your background. Now, here is what I used to do when I was a new agent. I had some transferable skills. I was a paralegal before I sold real estate. And so while on my first couple listings, while I didn't have a million sales stats and I wasn't the top agent in the area, what I used to say is, so prior to working in real estate, I worked in a real estate-based law office in a litigation department, and I learned a number of things. Number one, I learned how to negotiate really well from the top litigators in Westchester on real estate matters. The second thing that I learned was how real estate transactions get tripped up during the process, and I can usually spot some red flags or pitfalls to help you avoid that before we hit it. So that's my experience. Now, I work with Keller Williams. So here's some information from Keller Williams that you can share. Keller Williams is the #1 real estate franchise in the country. We're #1 in closed units, closed volume, and agent count. I would normally say, and I understand that that probably means nothing to you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, but what it does mean is that I have access to a really large referral network all across the country. Our technology platform allows me to have a referral network of over 160,000 Keller Williams agents all across the country. And what I can say for certain is that Keller Williams agents will first, if they can, refer business to other Keller Williams agents. And so what do we know about our current market? In our current market, most buyers are not, you have to know your market, my market. Most buyers are not coming from in our area. Most buyers are coming from out of the area. And so the benefit of me being part of this larger network is that when somebody in Brooklyn has a seller and they're helping sell so that they can move up to me in Kingston, they're going to look through and see who's going to be able to help them in Kingston. And then I'm going to get the lead from those Keller Williams agents, right? So I would explain that a little bit. Here's some other stats that you can say. Our offices, except for the Oneonta office, I don't have the numbers for upstate. You probably get those from Deb if you work in that office. But if you're in the other three, Kingston, Middletown, or New City, we are part of the tri-state region of Keller Williams offices. It's 47 Keller Williams offices and over 11,000 Keller Williams agents just in the tri-state area. So here's my tip. If you haven't done this already, go into the referral section and start building out a referral network of agents in our area and areas where we know buyers and sellers are moving to: Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, California, right? The feeder markets. Go into the referral section and start developing a network. That way, when you get into your listing presentation, you can say, and I have my own network. It has 500 agents that I market all of my listings to, that I have a relationship with, and that refer me business in the area back and forth, right? So I use that. You can also use the stats of our offices. The next thing I would typically say is, and locally, I'm part of the Keller Williams Realty Hudson Valley and Upstate group of property of real estate offices. We have the largest footprint of any real estate brokerage in the Hudson Valley and Upstate region. We work across 10 plus counties. There's almost 600 agents in our group. And last year, 2021, we collectively sold 1.5 billion with B dollars worth of real estate in the Hudson Valley and the upstate areas of New York. And so also by listing with me, you're going to have access to that network of agents here in the Hudson Valley. And we all network together. And we have a private Facebook group because we do, it's called our Haves and Wants Facebook group. If you're not in it, you should be, where you can market listings coming soon and you can market buyer needs and you can put in information in there. So I would say to them, and so we have a closed Facebook group where I can market your house to just our agents. And I also have an email list of the agents. And I also network with these people on a monthly basis. And I'm also in a class right now weekly with agents across all 4 of our market centers that I'm getting to know for different opportunities. And so just from my network, I'm able to get your property a high reach. Do you think explaining it that way? And notice I didn't have to use any sales stats of my own. And it still sounded pretty good, right? Like, so it still sounded pretty good. And I didn't even have to say, and I'm the top producer in this area, or and I sold, right? So use the power of the brokerage that you guys all chose to get into business with to back you on that. So you go over that. The next thing I would typically say is, okay, and so the next step is, so your home's first impression is typically always going to be made online in some form or manner, right? Buyers active home buyers are searching all day long on different portals, on different social media accounts for active homes for sale. And so your home's first impression is really important. And that is why I always use professional photography, drone, video, whatever you do, right? I always use that on all of my listings. That's going to make your home stand out the best. I also do whatever else you do, right? So some other options and again, there's a whole class on marketing your listing. So I'll go through it quick. And then if you want some help or you need some assistance with that, come take the next time I do the class. Ask if you're in productivity coaching. That could be a one-on-one coaching thing with your PC, or come consult one of your team leaders. But essentially market the house. It could be postcards, so prospecting, right? Postcards, open houses, social media ads. I would always mention during the social media section that Keller Williams, because we're the #1 real estate franchise in the country, we have an exclusive partnership with Facebook and Instagram. And so what that means is that when I run ads through our proprietary system, I get better results than someone that is not at Keller Williams running the same ad. And that is something where I will be able to get you in front of, like when I used to put $30 behind a Facebook ad and literally get in front of like 7,000 people. So I would say I can get in front of 7,000 people. I can target that to people in New York City, which is where we know buyers are coming from, blah, blah, blah. Now, as you're going through these points, here's another psychological thing. It's just a sales tactic. So you say, can you see, so we're #1, blah, blah, blah. We're awesome. We're amazing. You sold 1.5 billion. Da, 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 da. Can you see how being listing your house with an agent that's part of that network would help you get your home sold for the most amount of money in the quickest amount of time? Yes. Awesome. Great. Okay. So now your home's first impression is going to be on the internet. I do we're going to do great pictures. The pictures are going to give you your own landing page and ads and all the things. Can you see how that marketing strategy is going to help your home sell for the most amount of time and the least amount of the most amount of money, the least amount of time? Yep. Great. Then you might go into whatever else you do, right, to market a house. Open houses. You can talk to them about open houses. It's not rocket science, right? I do open houses. This is my open house strategy. I do a 7th level open house. And so what I do is I'm going to run an ad, and my ad usually gets the, X amount of people registered beforehand. And then the day before the open house, I'm going to go knock on all your neighbors' doors and invite them to come to the open house, because people that live in a neighborhood a lot of times know other people that want to move into the neighborhood. So I'm going to do that. I'm also going to send out a mailer to them. And then on the day of the open house, I'm going to do an extended 3-hour open house. And I'm going to make sure that everyone in my office knows about it, and everyone in my network knows about it, and everyone, all my connections in New York City that might have buyers coming up for the weekend know about the open house. And then we're going to do X, Y, and Z. And then after the open house, I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing. Can you see how my open house strategy would help your house sell for the most amount of money in the least amount of time? Yes. Awesome. So you're going to keep going through it, go through the listing packet. The last thing that you want to say, usually before you end there, is there anything else here that we didn't go over that you were expecting that you would hear from me in terms of how to list your home, in terms of marketing your home for sale? And then they're going to either say no, or they're going to say yes, and they're going to say something. And then at the end, after they say that, you want to talk to them about whatever it is. And then at the end of that, you want to say, great, is there anything else that you were expecting me to say that I didn't go over? And then they're going to say yes, and then they're going to come up with something else, and da, 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 and then you're going to say, great, is there anything else? Until you get to the point where they say no, it's no else. Okay, great. What questions in general can I answer? And the same thing. What, anything else? Anything else? Anything else? No. Okay. Awesome. Great. Okay. So now that we went over my marketing plan, and it seems like you agreed that this is the marketing plan that's going to position your property to be, to stand out from the crowd, to get multiple offers, sell quickly for the best price possible. Then the next thing that we need to do is we need to look at where your home fits in the current market. So this is the key with doing a CMA. It's not your opinion of their home's price. It's not your opinion of the home's price. It's not you, Minnie Thomas, telling them what their home is worth. It's the market. It's where their home fits in the current market. You want to be really careful with that verbiage. Anytime you're talking to a seller about their house, when you're talking to them about reducing the price, when you're talking to them about an initial listing price, it's where their home fits in the current market. It's not where you think it fits in the current market, because that's your opinion. And when it's your opinion, it's much harder to get people to agree with it. It's just where your home fits in the current market. And then you roll into a CMA, which again, we're not going to go over in today's class. There's an entire class that's going to go over with you how to do a CMA and roll into all of that. So you'll go over your CMA. And then at the end, you probably want to do another loop of, are there any other questions? Are there any other questions? What else can I answer? Blah, 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 blah. Great. So just to recap what we went over here, we toured your house. I got to know you a little bit better. We went over my marketing strategy. It seems like we've come to an agreement in terms of what you, where you would agree your house currently fits in the market right now. And so then the final question is, would you like to move forward with working with me as your listing agent? And the next step, so that's future pacing people. It's also a sales tactic, works well with buyers too. The next step, like anytime you're leaving somebody, okay, the next step would be to sign the listing paperwork so that I can call my professional photographer and get time set up. We could probably get the photos shot as soon as in the next 48 hours. Would you like to move forward with that? Okay, we have 6 minutes. And then that's it. You know, you'll hear there's in the script book, there's tons of objection handlers. So you want to familiarize yourself with them. We don't have time to go through like every objection that you might receive from somebody. The other thing, Patty and Scott in my office are doing daily power hours. And part of that is script and role play. So if you wanted to get really good at scripting and role playing a listing presentation, or the objections that come up when you might be at the presentation, then that would be a really good, it's open to anybody in any office. That might be a good thing to loop into and practice the conversations. When I was newly licensed and going on my first couple listing presentations, at the time I was commuting down in Westchester for my paralegal job. I lived in New Paltz, so I drove like an hour and a half back both ways. And I would just practice my listing presentation. I swear to God, I would have the packet and it would sit on my driver's side seat, and I would look at I'd glance over at the page and be like, oh, all right, that's the page on professional photography. Professional photography is blah, 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 and I do the whole thing. And the first 10 times I did it, I stumbled through it and I didn't know what I wanted to say and I didn't know how to put it and it didn't flow very well and it all sounded clunky and awkward. And then, you know, like the second week of my hour and a half commute spending going over my listing presentation, I started getting down some of these things to make it sound more natural. And then I would start coming up with every horrifying conversation scenario I could ever come up with, because that's just how my brain works, that a seller could say to me, and I would talk out loud to myself until I would work out like a good way to solve it. So part of this is practicing so that you're confident. Like, don't use your first listing presentation as your practice. You want to practice beforehand, whether that looks like finding an accountability partner or a script and role play partner and practicing with them, or just talking to your mirror or while you're driving or taking a shower, right? Make sure that you kind of go through the process so that when you get there, remember, when you get there, the seller is depending on you to sell what is likely one of, if not their largest asset, right? And so they're looking for you to be confident and to be knowledgeable and to be able to answer their questions. And so you want to make sure that you are well versed when it comes to that. Okay, what questions can I answer? You're muted, Minnie.
Okay, first thing I need to know, this is being recorded, right?
Yes.
Where would I find the recording for the future?
Kelly, where do they go?
So this is going to be posted on our YouTube channel. And then afterwards, I could email you the direct recording as well if it's easier for you.
So the name of it would be Ignite.
It's Hudson. So it's we have a playlist, an Ignite 2022 playlist on YouTube. I believe it's the Hudson Valley Training YouTube.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah. Oh, okay. There, Hudson Valley Training. Okay. Now, you know what was amazing? You know, that's why you always got to remain teachable in this business. When you were saying, don't just start talking about the listing, give them the marketing plan first before you go into the presentation. Mm-hmm. Before you start discussing the price of the house. Mm-hmm. I think that's something that was an eye-opener to me, because I have gone into the house, looked at the property, then sat down and showed them what I think the property is worth, and then went into my presentation. I think it's beneficial the way you're saying it. Go into the house, sit down with them and share the material first of what we're going to do to market the property. You know, some of these sellers, they anxious. They want to just show you the house and well, how much is my house worth? But we have to take control, go in the house, sit down with them and share the marketing plan, and then go look at the house and tell them what the market is saying their house is worth, right?
Right.
Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, I think you leave, well, because Minnie, you're experienced agent, you know that the most pushback comes to when you get to the price and the commission. And so you don't want to jump into that until you've built rapport with them during the tour, and then you've dazzled them with all your great marketing, you know, experience and all these awesome things, and you're getting them to agree. It's like, you want them like, I want to work with Minnie. I really want to work with Minnie. Like, Minnie's going to do all these awesome things for my house. So I should just probably listen to her when she tells me, or they might not be as aggressive. Because when I walk in to go shopping in a shoe store, I don't give them $20 and then go, okay, what shoes can I have? Right? Like, it's
try on the
reverse.
Right. Well, you know what? I heard today on a call this morning about, agent actually had a laminated plan. This is what you get for 7%. This is what you get for 6%, and this is what you get for 5%. I said, wow, which one do you want? I said, seriously? But yes, because you get these sellers that they want 4%. Okay, you want 4%. You want to pay 4%. this is what you're gonna get for 4%. But if we get 6%, this is what you're gonna get.
Mhm.
So you want
Yep.
4 or you want 6?
Mhm.
Yeah.
When people would argue with me about my commission or try to negotiate on the commission, I would say, okay, so I shared with you that I'm going to do A through, A through Z. So which one of those things do you want to remove for 5%?
Yeah. For 5%, right? Exactly.
Which
Yeah.
one? We can do it. So which ones do you want to remove? I'm not removing the professional photography because that's my marketing. And I would say that to sellers, like, your home's first impression is going to be, so is mine. Like, and I pride myself in the way that I market properties. So I make sure it looks well, right? But what else? Maybe we won't do an open house. Maybe we won't do flyers. Maybe I'm not going to door knock your neighborhood.
So that's a good question. Say if the house needs a whole lot of work, you still would pay for a photographer to go in there?
Yeah, unless it's like really like a foreclosure, like disheveled.
No, it wasn't a foreclosure. It was a property that he actually has tenants living there. They're renting rooms. They wasn't in the best condition and stuff like that.
With a tenant, I mean, so a lot of times with the rentals, the tenants won't even let you in to take pictures like that. So it's probably one of those like outlier scenarios where you might still though hire the photographer to do the exterior shots. And then depending on, it might be cheap if they just have to come and take a couple like drone pictures and a couple exterior shots because, but if you can take pictures on the inside, it's part of the scale too. When you start talking about price with the CMA, every houses sell in all conditions. Condition is never actually a condition of whether or not a house is going to sell, right? It's price. The price has to match the condition because foreclosures sell every day. Homes that have leaky roofs and are filled with mold sell every day, but they sell when they're priced right. So there's no condition that you can't sell a house in. You just have to get them in line with what the price is.
Yeah, the price, condition, and location. Yeah.
And so if the picture, so even if they're not willing to stage or it's kind of disheveled, if they're going to price it well, still take, get pictures up there. It's not going to be, you know what I mean? But also use your best. It's a judgment, another judgment call, like use your best discretion. But just in general, you want to make sure. I mean, the only time I didn't do it is even for land, I used to hire my photographer to do land and drone, but I wouldn't do it. Like there was a couple times I listed like $60,000 tear down, like shacks. It's like, it's gonna sell to an investor in multiple offers in a day. They just need some pictures and it will be okay. And but in general, you want to have professional photos.
Thank you.
Welcome. Any other questions? I know we went a couple minutes over, but I have a couple minutes. Go ahead, Lisa. Hi.
Hi, I have a quick question. When you go to a listing presentation, do you bring actual contracts to sign or do you just say, I'll send it to you in DocuSign?
So should stop the recording. No, I'm just kidding. Don't record this. I would bring something for them to sign. So the listing, you have to be careful with the listing contracts because you have to be careful when you date them. When they're the effective date, they have to be put in the MLS usually within 24 hours of the effective date on the listing agreement. Sometimes what I used to do is I would just have the seller sign like everything except for the listing agreement. So they're still signing stuff. So psychologically, they're like signing things. So they'd sign agency disclosure and fair housing and lead-based paint and whatever else. And then I would go through the listing I would go through the listing paperwork, like the listing, why am I blanking on the word, agreement, the listing agreement with them. And then say, so unfortunately the rules are within 24 hours of the effective date, I have to put it in the MLS. So we're going to wait on this last one, but I'm going to fill it in now just so that there's no surprises when you see it in DocuSign later on. So it's up to you. It does make it a little bit more difficult because we do everything through command. So you have to come back and scan the file in.
Yeah.
Which is fine. It's like, then you just skip the DocuSign step and you just upload it directly into command, which isn't, any harder or probably easier, honestly, than going through DocuSign. But but yeah, I would always have them sign something because it is a good psychological way to kind of like
Okay.
lock them in. Yeah, it's a good question.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you. This
welcome.
was a great class.
Oh, you're welcome. Teresa, I saw you come off mute for a second. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, where would we get the office stats as far as like the stuff that we could use as instead of our own stats if we don't have sales?
Yep. So your ASC should be able to pull what's called the lore. It's called the language of real estate for you. These are flyers they're supposed to be doing monthly and giving to you. It shows how our office is outpacing the market. So there's that. There's also, we have like in North, I have a generic listing presentation I can send you that you can work. I could send it to everyone. You just would have to change it for your office if you're not in my Kingston office. And there's some stats in there. And then probably just like, you might have to create something if you wanted to, well, wait. The listing presentation, I think, has pages about Keller Williams, like Keller Williams International in there about how we're #1. And we probably should work on getting you guys some more stuff around like our offices kind of locally in our group of brokerages. I'm sure that's something that the team leaders and the ASCs could help us with. Good question. Monique, I see your hand raised.
Hi, it's a quick question. The listing presentation, some of them are on command, right? For as a prereq. Okay, just making sure it's somewhere in command.
Yep, right in the design section under print marketing. Yep. Emily, Amelia, I'm sorry. Oh, I see your hand raised. Emily? Amelia? No, what is it? I see your hand raised. Is your hand raised? Let's see. Maybe not.
She asked in the chat, what's the definition of lore?
So it's LORE, language of real estate. It's an acronym. Okay, any other questions? Do we feel confident we can go out and talk to sellers?
100%.
I have
Awesome.
one last question, and you may have said it before, but I'm kind of like multitasking. This comes from after lead generating and getting an interested seller or interested buyer.
Yes. Yep. So the first step, by the way, all of this is irrelevant if you're not lead generating, because you're not going to have any appointments to go on. So there's no point in knowing how to do any of this if you're not lead generating for the appointments, right? So the first step is to do, like you talked about at the beginning, your daily 10-4, adding 10 new names to your database every day, following up with 10 names that are already in your database, previewing 10 houses a week, and then going and then writing 4 handwritten cards. That's, by the way, handwritten cards, that's a great expired lead generation tactic. That's how I got my first listing ever, was writing handwritten notes to expired listings, because I didn't have enough money to buy a dialer or pay for the lists and the red X and the things that cost hundreds of dollars a month. So I would handwrite notes and I'd put my business card in. And that's how I got my first listing, which led to my first 4 buyers, because it was a good price listing. Hi, Michelangelo. I saw you come off mute. Is there a question?
Yes, how are you?
Good.
What was the name of that video that you made on client psychology?
Oh, it was part of our listing series, and it's, I think, 5 ways to guarantee a listing. It should be on our YouTube channel. And that dove a little bit deeper into the disc profiles and how to work with the different personality profiles.
Is that one of the elementals or no? It's on its own.
It's just a class I created because I thought it was important and valuable and interesting.
Great,
It's in
thank
the
you.
chat.
5 ways to
Welcome.
guarantee your listing. Thank you so much.
Oh, and Kelly just put it in the chat. Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, when you all go out and nail your first listing or your next listing presentation, text me or email me and tell me how it went. I want to hear. All right, best of luck. By the way, kudos